Can you give me information on overdose?
Most people who use heroin have witnessed an overdose. Most people who've used heroin have experienced an overdose. There are certain risk factors for overdose. One is injecting. Two is mixing with other depressant drugs, particularly alcohol, benzodiazepines, and other opiate-like drugs like methadone or OxyContin. You're much more likely to overdose if you've got other psychiatric or physical problems. You're much more likely to overdose at particular times, and they're times normally associated with low tolerance. So for example, heroin users who leave prison and who are not on methadone and buprenorphine have a 50-fold increase of fatal overdose in the first week leaving jail. That's because people leave jail, they go out, they use, they don't appreciate how much their tolerance has fallen, so they use a dose they would have used before they went into jail, and they overdose and die. People's tolerance also is low when they leave a methadone and buprenorphine program, when they jump off naltrexone, or when they walk out of a detox unit. Every time your tolerance is low, that puts your risk up. Don't forget that methadone lasts for a long time, and other drugs like Valium or heroin taken on top of methadone can have an additive effect. So the question is, how do you spot an overdose in one of your friends? They will be unrousable, they'll have pinpoint pupils, they may be snoring, or their breathing may be slow and shallow. A respiratory rate of less than 8 breaths per minute should ring alarm bells. If you see someone who is snoring and unrousable, shake them, shout at them, whisper naloxone in their ear. If they don't wake up, they might be overdosing. You need to call an ambulance, dial 000. Most people overdose in the presence of other people. It never needs to happen.
Tell the operator that you think the person has overdosed. The next important thing is to stay with the person. If they're unconscious, lay them on their side. If you know the recovery position, put them in the recovery position. And watch their breathing. With a narcotic overdose, as I said, they can stop breathing. You may even actually have to administer mouth to mouth until the ambulance arrives. Never try and reverse the overdose with any of the myths that are around with salt or saline or speed. That doesn't work, it actually makes them quite sicker. Don't put them in a cold shower. Some people tend to think that. Again, just as I said earlier, leave them on their side if they're unconscious and make sure you've called the ambulance.
So there are two quick myths about overdose. One is that it's younger people who are at more risk of overdosing. It's not. The longer you've been using, the more opportunities you've had to overdose. Second is that most people don't die just of heroin. They die of heroin mixed with other drugs.
If someone's discouraging you from calling an ambulance, it's really important to ignore them. Do what you know is right. Call the ambulance straight away. In my experience, I've been to many circumstances where there have been crowds of people, and luckily one person has had the courage to call the ambulance and saved their friend's life by doing so. We will actually administer Narcan or naloxone if it's a case of a heroin overdose, which works very quickly, can work within minutes and wake the person up. Then we try to encourage them to come to hospital with us. Often that doesn't happen, but we're more than happy to take anyone along to hospital after they've had an overdose at any time. Often it is important to go to hospital after an overdose. When we administer Narcan to a person that's overdosed, sometimes the effect of the Narcan can wear off very quickly and the person can revert into an overdose state. So that's where it's important to go to hospital and seek further medical attention. A non-fatal overdose can cause quite significant long-term effects on someone. Firstly, with a narcotic overdose, as I said before, if you stop breathing, when you stop breathing, you have a lack of oxygen to the brain. That can cause brain damage. It also causes a lack of oxygen going to your heart and can cause some cardiac damage as well as damage in your lungs as well. They can leave a tourniquet on, and if they're unconscious and not able to remove it, it actually stops the blood circulating in the arm, and the worst case scenario, you could actually end up losing an arm. Or if someone's overdosed and they're unconscious and lying on an arm or a leg and unable to move it because they are unconscious, it can restrict the blood circulation to that limb and can be very painful and cause some ongoing long-term effects.